So these are 2 packs that I use all the time. This particular pack has got a really bad reputation, and I don't really understand why. It's because it is put down to Aleister Crowley, and he was regarded as left-hand pather, therefore someone who didn't walk in the light. Yet actually they were designed by a woman called Lady Freda Harris, whose gift and whose talent is such that whatever he might have had in his mind that was of left-hand path, which I don't think it was, is overridden by her sense of beauty. So this other pack is much more kind of, I think, of everyday. So when a person comes to me, I try to offer them really a choice. These I see as incredibly spiritual cards. So they try to get within the subject, within the person, within the matter. These are much older images. They are the archetypal images, and they tend to do more well with simple, straightforward, but there's no way you are a simple, straightforward man. So, whatever you choose, we'll fiddle along with it.
Okay. I just want to say, I actually remember when I saw you last time, I actually said to you, I was like, Dodie, how could we be using cards by Aleister Crowley, because I know a lot about it.
Yes.
And you were brilliant because you explained Lady Freda
Yeah.
and how amazing how God
Yeah.
works, because
yeah.
this man designing it, but the woman that illustrated it was light.
Yeah. Well, actually, I read a biography someone had written about the poor fellow, and if he was his friend, which purportedly he was, he made the man sound really quite silly, and kind of foolish. Well, I don't know, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but these are certainly not foolish cards. They're beautiful. No. I found them, as all tarot should come, they should become almost not as a gift, but as something that are brought to you. You can buy them, but they really need to be chosen by something inside you. So I went for a read to someone, and they had these glorious images out. And I was just overwhelmed by them. They're just so beautiful. So there and then, I bought a pack. So we'll start with these. Because, going back to Crowley, whatever he intended within these things, whatever the pack looks like, it's down to the person that reads them. Okay. What is nice, what is loving, what is giving within that person will read through the cards. What is absurd and maybe cruel even will also read through the cards. It's the person, You take what you can from them, but instinctively the reader.
So something's working for you. And
yes. Yeah. Well, yes, really, because you are what you are, whether you pick up a paintbrush or a pack of tarot cards, and however you're going to portray them or use that paintbrush or the tarot cards comes from you, from within the soul, from within the person. You need to think about why you're here and have a kind of conversation with yourself and with whatever you think cares for you in the larger world, in the larger life. As you know, I absolutely believe in angels, and not just in an abstract way. I write about angels, obviously, in my books, but I have seen them with my eyes. So when that happens to you, you can't call it a lie. If you do, you call yourself the lie, and what happened unreal, and that would be awful. So shuffle up, thinking about why you're here. Take your time. The only shuffle that doesn't really work well is that kind of thing that some men do, which doesn't work at all. They would do what they do anyway, but you end up with a back to front pack. A chap once came here and he dropped the pack. and gathered them all up. That'll do, he said. Well, actually, it did. The mess that I received was the mess that was his life. You know, they were just awful. But you know, that's how it is with the tarot. The tarot is, it's something marvelous, as well as something human. The images that are portrayed there. I had marvellous young chap comes as a student here, young Jay, and we were debating them over an hour. And the more he thought about it, the more he found. You know, the more he found a topic in this area of the card, and not just something he'd read off the blurb that comes with the pack. You know, yeah.
Tarot are deep. I'll say that.
Yeah.
They changed since I've come to see you. My whole life has changed. So.
Well, you did that, sweetie.
Well,
you did that. You did. And you, I believe, have an earth angel too, who has helped you very well. A man.
My father?
No, flesh and blood man who has become.
Alan.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, that in itself, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Angels are wonderful. And also
you
terrible.
Be an angel and still be living as a human.
Of course, of course. As far as things that go bump in the night, you know, ghosts and spirits and whatever, that's a living phenomena. And people take a ghost as happening in the earth world. Yet for some extraordinary reason, they can't think that an angel can be walking the earth. They can't see that an angel is a state of being, a becoming angel, as with Gabriel Templar in Reluctant Angels. We are becoming angels. It might take us life after life after life after life, and pain after pain after joy after joy. But I believe that's why we're here, to learn to become, becoming angels. Right. Oh, and look, what a wonderful card you start with. My goodness, so beautiful. I will now put my glasses on for no other reason than I just think this is so lovely. Look at it.
Help the priestess.
Yeah.
Oh.
This.
I've never had this one.
No, this is new to you.
Yeah, I've never had a priestess.
And it's a lovely, lovely, lovely card because it's a state of being. So to have it in the centre. The old way of doing the tarot, and many ladies and chaps do it the same, is to suggest that the card in the centre represents the current, represents the person that's come asking the question, and that everything else, therefore, that lies across them and around them is happening to them, is aspects of them. This lovely card is thought to represent wisdom, the probabilities of wisdom. Of moving into a state where you are aware of what is wise and what is not. It doesn't suggest that until then you were bundling along, like, you know, kind of walking into doors or whatever. But this is a state of being that is beginning to understand the secrets of life, the secrets of yourself, and also what was always known to you but was never. Have you not had a dream where you're trying to read something and you can never quite read it? It'll be a book or a page, or you're either looking for your glasses or something, but it's never quite clear. This card becomes indication of things being opened up. If you look at her again, look at what she does. Look at what she is. She's actually a being in two halves.
Oh, yeah.
This part seems to be all stone, doesn't it? Whereas look at her here. She's made of air and light. She's more ephemeral there. Whereas this earthly bit has from the light kind of from the waist down. The organ, the producing self, also the human bit is locked in. But this part is completely free. It's this wonderful state to be. For a beginning or for a happening, it usually indicates meeting people who are in and perhaps one person in particular, who represents a person of skill, a person of knowledge, but within, or rather not yet within, the spiritual realms. So this becomes a card of kind of protection. It's lovely. It may become a job for you that actually means working or investigating or looking at the so-called idea of therapy, of wisdom of the mind and the brain, of not so much doctors of the body, but of people who represent. You know what? Only today I thought of you. There was a headline where a woman, I think she was a therapist or a psychiatrist, said to be practicing, was found to have no degrees whatsoever.
You've done it already, carry on.
And they're now looking at, I think it is like I don't know how many doctors that are in this country practicing, or psychiatrists that are practicing. They are now being looked at to make sure that they are what they are. I mean, it's a bit late, but that's how it comes to me, that some way you will be involved in that kind of work, looking under the stones, seeing what's under the stones.
It's very interesting because for the insomnia film that I'm making, I've had this issue about there's no trained people in Wales, and there isn't in England in insomnia, so that's one. Then the second thing,
my word.
I've been using non-evidence-based therapists who are brilliant, but because they're not scientific and rigorous.
Oh, crikey, yeah.
Right? But because there's no one in Wales to do any of this, in the film I'm relying on this woman. I mean, this woman nearly cried last week. She's like, my head's on the line here because it's not evidence.
She sounds wonderful.
Yeah, she
and
is.
brave and courageous.
But she's not evidence-based, and then the other doctors...
She hasn't got the ologies on the wall.
No, and so now they're going to... The whole film is now we need to train people.
Well, there you got it. So the door is opening, and it will be a tricky door, because...
It's been tricky.
Yeah, if we think about the card, you've got an earthbound... This tends to cover women's bodies, the womb area. So it may be that you find yourself being drawn into an area of that female body and what is purportedly, the ones with the ologies and how they're doing it and how they're not. And we might find that actually figures float to the surface, that it's not just psychiatrists or whatever that haven't got the ology. It's a lot more. And people who have direct contact with female bodies, and kind of becomes an invasion. So you might keep your eye open for that. Yeah. It's a massive card.
It's just strange with what's been going on, but anyway.
Yeah, and at the bottom was the most lovely thing. You've got all this fruit, the fruit and the flowers, the richness.